We're back for another Navigating Your 20s episode with one of my favorite guests. I'm so happy that you're here.
Oh my gosh, I'm glad to be back. It's crazy because we had such a good time just sort of chatting last time that it's nice to come back and chat and like really hit on some of those gems.
Yes, people loved our episode. I loved our episode. I'm like, people are me. It's me.
People are me. You're like, I'm coming back. It's for me.
Yes. Okay, so what is something that you would tell your 20-year-old self?
Well, the first thing I would tell my 20-year-old self is that it's not that serious. You will recover from whatever choices you're making, and your 20s are the time to learn. So it's the time to explore. It's the time to make mistakes. It's the time to be big and bold and know that like you'll recover. You have 30. No one cares if your life is together before 35. That's like literally the truth. Like you think it's like 30, that's like the pressure point. Like, oh, by 30, I need to have like the house, the da-da-da-da-da. But the truth is like, that's a lie. Like you're probably not gonna, and by the time you're 35, people just want to know you're trying. Like there's some direction. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I feel like on one end, we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to achieve everything very young. And then on the other, we're too afraid to actually do anything, especially in our 20s, whether that's, start working towards a dream, make a career change, even like a lot of like romantic fears. There's so many things that we hold our own selves back by.
That's so true.
What advice would you give to someone who is kind of in that headspace?
Yeah, so I think that one, like all that stuff's not true. You know what I mean? Like all that's just, it's a total lie. It's like society sort of being like, well, you should have this and you should follow this path and you should do this traditional thing. And I mean, we talked about it last time. We did the whole like, oh, we're dating someone and it looks like this and this is what we're aiming towards. And then we were like, oh, this isn't working. I have an unorthodox career, like none of us grew up saying we wanted to be influencers or YouTube stars or whatever, or podcasters. And here we are. So know that life is like that too. So in your 20s, things are going to evolve. It's crazy because I have an 11-year-old, which I talk about in my book. I have an 11-year-old that I adopted. And, she's growing up now and she's saying like, yeah, I think I may want to be like a climate change scientist. And it's crazy because like, literally, if you were born just 10 years before her, that wasn't really a job. You know what I mean? Like there were people who were kind of doing that, but like it's very possible even in your 20s now that your job or your future or the thing you want to do hasn't even been created. Like we're like the last generation that even remembers like Instagram like not really being around. You know what I mean? Like, or like definitely not TikTok, So it's like, since we are getting to have like access to all these new things, like why are we putting pressure on ourselves when like the thing we may be like the champion of may not even be here yet? Like just learn your skills,
It's so funny that you say that because, I'm the queen of putting pressure on myself.
Me too.
I used to always say, I'm like, I just think that what I'm doing in 10, 20 years from now doesn't even exist yet because what I'm doing currently really didn't exist 10 years ago.
And honestly, I think that, a lot of people don't realize it from the outside because they just enjoy our content, right? Like they watch the podcast, they watch Instagram, they watch the YouTubes. But the truth is like, it's changing all the time. Like even now when you think about it, the way you're doing it today, a month from now might be different. You know what I mean? Like even TikTok. Like I remember when TikTok first, I mean, we all do. When TikTok first came out and it was like dances, like 99% dances. And now it's like tutorials and dances and like, vlogs and like, people have figured out how to do their like travel stuff on there. Like it's just evolved. And I think that we forget the concept of evolution. We feel like we need to be landing on something. I talk about it. So my book, Nothing is Missing, it comes out.
I'm so excited.
Thank you. It's available for pre-order now, but it comes out in October. And one of the main things I talk about is looking back on my life, realizing that the only thing I really need to be good at doing is getting good at fresh starts. How good am I at starting over? Do I spend a lot of time in my feels? Do I spend a lot of my time beating myself up about what I didn't do or what I don't have? Or do I say to myself, okay, the thing happened. What did I learn? And how can I move forward? You know what I mean? And I don't mean it in the gross, like toxic positivity, like everything's fine, let me march forward. But I mean it in the way of like, okay, like be in your feels for that moment, but let's get going because we're still here.
Let's like dive more into that.
Yeah.
Getting good at fresh starts. Because I think that goes to like evolving and everything is always changing and you should be doing all this and blah, blah, blah. It's a lot easier said than done.
Oh, yes, girl. Yes. Not even gonna lie. Like, I mean, I have, it's weird because I feel 1,000 years old and it's only because like I'm in my like late 30s and I feel 1 billion years old because I've lived so much life in that time frame that most people haven't. So like in just the past 8 years, I have put 2 kids into college, 1 into rehab, 1 through stage 4 cancer, 1 into kindergarten, potty trained, taught her how to read, built a multi-million-dollar business, quit my corporate job, and went through a divorce. And it's like all that.
And got engaged.
Yeah. Right. And met a new, like, hotter guy that I absolutely love to pieces. And I'm engaged. I'm getting married again, you know. And I'm also trying to have, like, my first biological child. And I wrote a book, you know, and, like, podcasts. Oh, and I also had a TV show. So, I mean, like, I say all those things, like, legit, like, in 8 years, though. You know what I mean? So if people are saying that they want to do even, like, 1 or 2 of those things or some of those things, recognize that, like, it's okay to take a lifetime to do that, you know, like, just the parameters I think that we have around what it looks like is crazy. In 8 years, I never thought I'd be starting over in a million years. You know, like, I built all those things in my 20s. Like, I adopted my 3 girls at 28, thinking that was it for a lifetime. And now here I am just 10 years later, and I'm not married to the same person. I'm not living in the same house. I'm in a different, like, who would have even guessed, you know, like, and like my daughter's in rehab, you know, like, it's just like, I never would have guessed that my life would look like this. And, like, it's okay though. You know, I'm alive. I'm here. I'm thriving. I'm sharing that story. So I don't know, like, not to spin the interview on you, but, like, some of the pressure I put on myself is because of me expecting that, like, oh God, I can't fail. Or, like, what if I don't hit this goal? Like, I don't know if that's what it's like for you.
Definitely.
But yeah.
My biggest fear is failure. And I really reframed what failure means to me.
Right.
And also, I think when you are more entrepreneurial or maybe more of, like, a bigger thinker, and not even, I don't like the bigger thinker, but maybe not following more of a traditional path.
Of course.
What I've learned and what I've had to learn to reframe a lot of things, especially in work, is that, like, changing your mind, changing what you're doing, evolving isn't failure. That's actually success.
Absolutely.
Because for me personally, as someone who has a hard time giving something up because I know that there's
Gotta
something
see
better.
it through, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Who has, and it's like, oh, is it giving it up? Is that failure? Or am I just being smarter and, you know, pivoting to what I need to be doing? I've had to reframe that. But yes, a lot of it, just my natural instinct, a lot of it is fear of failure.
Yes,
like, it's terrifying.
Same thing for me. And it's weird because that fear of failure concept, like, where do we even get that from? Who are we failing around, especially around something that didn't even exist before? How could you literally be a failed TikTok star when TikTok is like 5 minutes old and we're all brand new to it? You know what I mean? Like, and there are people right now who are being super successful on TikTok. Like, there's this whole genre of TikTok I found last night that I am obsessed with. And it's literally people, like, hyping up people who are, like, terrible at things. Like, it's this weird thing. I'm not even making this up. Like, and I don't want to throw them out there because I don't know if these people know that they're not good. Like, I'm like, totally serious. But there's 2 people that I follow that I am just obsessed with. And they are absolutely conventionally terrible singers, right? Like, traditionally terrible dancers. But when I tell you how committed they are, like, they'll never be Bruno Mars, right? But they're going to classes, they are performing. And what's interesting is there's this whole, like, they have a following of people who are literally like, you're getting better. Like, oh, you ate that, sis. You know what I mean? Like, people are on there hyping them up, and they have this following, literally just following them on their journey to basically become average. It's like the weirdest thing to watch, you know? And I'm sitting here saying, like, wow, you know, we all are, like, there's someone out there right now beating themselves up because they're like, I'm not a good enough dancer, you know, to be like popular on TikTok. And I'm like, literally, there are people on here who are actually making TikTok money off of not being good at all, you know? And it's because what people want to see, it evolves, you know? So how can we beat ourselves up about failing when, like, literally the end goal is going to be an evolving, you know, finish line? Like, when at 25, I never thought, oh, in 3 years, I'll be a mom to 3 girls, you know, that I meet on the side of a street in Baltimore. Like, never, you know, but here I am, and it's changed the course of my life, and I'm glad for it.
And also, like, if we're just calling failure, you know, what society would probably deem as failure, let's say you have 3 businesses that fail before you have the one that hits. Like, in order to get your, like, societal success, like, hit, basically, you have to have those failures. Like, were they really failures?
Were they even failures?
You
and
know?
also, like, what entrepreneur has one business? Like, what successful entrepreneur? That, I think, is probably one of the biggest, like, misconceptions, that people have is that, oh, when you're an entrepreneur, you have to have this one thing and be hyper focused. And that's your thing that you're driven towards. Like, I do not know it's called income streams. If you only have one thing going on, you legit are doing it wrong.
Yeah.
And like being multi-passionate and multifaceted is like the definition of being an entrepreneur. Like, you see so many celebrities now, particularly because of the strikes that are happening and the pandemic even, that now all of a sudden they like, oh, I have a podcast. Oh, I wrote a book. Oh, I have a skincare line. Oh, I have like a liquor line. Like, oh, like all these things. When it used to be that people were like, I'm an actress. That's what I do. But no, people are understanding income streams matter for sustainability. Plus, we're creative people. Like, you should be prepared to evolve and express. And that's like a good thing. That's not failure.
Definitely. Okay, I'm like listening to us speak right now. And I feel like we're saying like, oh, do a billion different things and you're fine. And don't like, for me personally, as someone who does want to do a billion different things,
sure,
I can find myself getting really overwhelmed and then start to spiral or one thing's off and I'm just too pigeonholed. I'm not like, stepping back for a second. I will get really overwhelmed and spiral.
Sure.
So what advice would you have for someone who's maybe like me or a listener who's listening to this right now and is like, yeah, great, but like, I'm not going to do a billion different things. It's too much.
Yeah, I can't do all the things. So I think one of the things that I talk about, I have a whole chapter in my book about seasons. And I think that I don't know where this concept comes from, I'm not going to lie, but I talk about it in my book where a lot of our life feels like, you know how people say chase your purpose or find your purpose? We have very destination driven speech where we're like, I got to get to here, And so because of that, it's like, oh, I've got this task that I have to finish. Oh, I got to get to here. And the truth is seasons are more realistic. Everything should have a season. Like, that is how life goes, right? Like, we've got spring, summer, fall, winter, right? We've got appetizers, entrees, and dessert. Like there are closes to a point of working on something. And so what I always tell people is that, if there's something you want to pursue, give it its season. Let it be the focus for that season, but make sure you're seeing that season through. So with my clients, because I run a consulting firm, for like influencers and entrepreneurs and all that. And my consulting firm, I always tell my clients, it's probably 6 months past what you think. So when you start feeling like, oh, I hit my mark, give it 6 more months. And that 6 more months can be like after the launch. It can be like after the, big event. In those 6 months, it may not be that you're growing it or scaling it or making it bigger or promoting it more. It may be that you're just taking those 6 months to assess what worked, what didn't work. How are we going to do this again? Let's collect data. Let's talk to people and get feedback. If there was one thing business-wise that I think that I see the most in my younger clients, meaning like under 30 that are seeking to become, honestly, my younger clients aren't even trying to become millionaires like my older ones are. They're like, literally like, I just want to make enough money to like pay my bills, live my life, that sort of thing. And I got to tell you, my younger clients, they are focused on what do I do to get to the point of famous, but not what do I do to sustain it, right? Or what do I do after the fact to see like, how do I learn? None of them do like data getting. None of them do like surveys. None of them want to ask people like, did that suck? Because of like social anxiety and all those things. But truly that's like the full process. So yeah, you don't need to focus on 500 things. Give the one thing its season, but then make sure that season includes a little back end where you're able to say, okay, like, let's assess what I learned from this before I move into the next one. You know what I mean? It's cheesy, but I compare it to like your closet, right? So like I do a spring, summer switch out. So whenever it starts getting cooler, when I'm doing that transition where I'm like, okay, let me take out my short sleeves, my shorts, and to bring in my coats and my long sleeves and sweaters. One of the things I do is I go through and I sort through the spring, summer stuff and say, what didn't I wear? What doesn't fit? What is like seasonal and trendy? And then I get rid of those things so that they don't come back the next season. So it's like this, like, give it its dedicated time, but then make sure you're spending time kind of sorting through before you go into the next one.
How do you know when it's time to give something up? Like when it's time to quit and move on to the next venture, relationship, whatever it is?
I feel like as someone who stayed in my marriage for 12 whole years, I'm the worst person to ask. Like I literally am like, because like, I'm not going to lie. And I mention it, like it comes up towards the tail end of my book. I knew that my marriage wasn't good in year one. It was just well, maybe it'll change and maybe I can work on it. And maybe it'll evolve and maybe it's me. And maybe if I lose 30 pounds, maybe if I have like $1 billion, like there are a million ways that if you are that type of person, you can rationalize staying in something. What I wish I'd listened to was, and this is what I do now, like, oh my God, if this is the only thing people do going, away from this, it would be hugely helpful. It's changed my life just this year alone as I really focused on it. I listen to my intuition. And I know that that sounds kind of obvious, like people are like, oh yeah, listen to your gut, listen to your gut. No, like, let me be the like auntie, mama, big sister, bestie who's saying, listen, your intuition actually is right. That thing that tells you, and the intuition, like, I think that we minimize it because we're like, oh, well, I'm just like 25. What do I know? Or people will even tell you, you're 21. What do you know? The reason why your intuition is something to listen to is it is a culmination and a group of data that you may not realize you picked up. So like, it's like the girl who goes into the bar and is like, oh no, I catch a vibe that this is not where I should be, and that vibe is made up because your brain picked up that, okay, there's a couple sketchy guys in the corner. The floor is a little sticky and dirty. The temperature here is weird. There's a little bit too many people here. The music may be a smidge too loud, like whatever, you know what I mean? But you picked up all that stuff and it just processed in your brain as maybe not for me. And the same thing happens with relationships. If you're saying to yourself at any point in time, gosh, I really don't know where this is going or this isn't working, it doesn't necessarily mean you need to stay there and figure it out, right? Like if you know that you can't see yourself with this person in 30 years, then what is the intent of being there for another 5 years just for kicks? You know what I mean? Like, what is the point? You know what I mean? You are better off alone. Like you're better off leaving room for the person to find you. So that's been my thing now is like, I am listening to my intuition like never before because I can trust it. And I've never, and I think you'll relate to this, I have never in my entire life heard anybody say, man, I listened to my gut and that was a terrible decision. I never should have listened to myself. That was awful. I should have listened to everybody else in society because I listened to my own gut. No, you listen to your gut and you say, look, even if I got it wrong, I'm so glad that like I feel comfortable knowing that it came from a place that I trust.
I remember when I, got myself into a situation in life that I was so miserable in and so unhappy. And I was finally like kind of exiting that time of my life. And I got to the point where I was like, I don't even know what my intuition is saying. I don't even know.
Yes.
I can't even hear myself.
But that's trauma too. You know
that's
what I mean?
And it's like what happens when you ignore yourself for years and years and years to come. Like, I think it was trauma. I think it was the situation that I was in. But also I ignored myself for so long.
Yep.
And then I like couldn't even recognize my own voice because I wasn't used to hearing it anymore.
Oh my God, that's so good. That's so real. I went to the doctor's office with my fiance and it was just like a follow-up exam or whatever. And when I was there, they were like, yeah, like just letting you know, like you're getting like, I have like psoriasis, like the dry skin or whatever. I feel proud to say it now because Kim Kardashian has it. So I'm like, so we have psoriasis.
So we have it together.
We have it together. And so, my dermatologist was like, yeah, I just want to let you know, like this gets worse when you're stressed, which like, plot twist, like who isn't stressed anymore, obviously. But like, she was like, yeah. And like, if you weren't experiencing this before like 3 years ago, like even if it was like dormant in your body around the time of your divorce, when you were like peak stressed, your body's breaking down, like all the things you're saying, Kenzie, like I wasn't listening to myself, like all of that, right? Like she was like, that contributed to it. So I look at my fiance and I'm like, did you hear her say that? That like, it was the right thing for me to leave my previous relationship because my body was breaking down and showing it. And he was like, yes, she did say that. And I was like, you heard her, right? And he was like, you keep checking with me as if you don't trust that that the reason you left your marriage was right because your body was breaking down. Like, why don't you believe that? Because like the doctor has said it. I heard the doctor say it. We know like based on your blood work that there was a problem. And I had to literally like haul my ass to my therapist and be like, what, like, why am I needing sort of like a level set and a check? And she's like, exactly what you said. She was like, you don't believe yourself. When you've been like gaslit enough that like your reasons aren't good enough. When you like, it's enough of a reason to want to leave a relationship because you just don't like it.
Yeah.
If you're like, I don't like this person's smell, like I know people who are musicians here in LA who are like, I broke up with her because I didn't like her singing voice. And I was like, that feels kind of crazy, but you're like, no, like I'm a singer, they're a singer. We're in a relationship. They're going to sing all the time. Why would I try to be with someone and suppress their gift, just because I don't like it? Like
Totally.
It's just one of those things where it's like, oh my gosh, I needed that validation of a doctor because I didn't even trust that I knew what I was experiencing. I know my doctor doesn't know better than I do that my body's not well, and yet here I am needing permission just to be okay. And it was because of the trauma of that. So yeah, like you have to flex your intuition muscle in little ways to like know that you're okay. But part of that is also being single and being alone, which I know you can speak to, taking that season.
It's my longest season, my greatest. Yeah,
but like, I mean, but like it's important. And I think that like if there's anything also in my 20s that I think of, it's like I was so afraid to be alone and like, and not just alone, like a relationship. People are like, oh no, I'm cool. Like, I'm good being by myself. And I mean, like, I always want to be like with my friends or have something going on. You know what I mean? And it's like, no, like it's okay to just be like you. You know what I mean?
Well, honestly, similar to what you're saying with your doctor, like conversations, because I have gone back and forth so many times. And now I'm like, I want to add a little bit of chaos to my life, meaning like I need to live a little.
Intentional chaos, though.
Yes, like I'm going to have fun. If like I have like crazy things that I could have done the past year that I didn't do because I was too guarded in my personal life because I got to too comfortable a place, right? But I did that for so long, like stayed single and wasn't dating and stuff. And I would always go back and forth on it. But like conversations that like I had with you and a couple other people that I actually like really admire and respect their opinions that are older than me, like know more than I do. You guys always were like, no, this is great. You should be doing it.
Yeah, just do it.
Just do it. You're like, I wish I would have done that. And I would always be like, but like maybe I'm not doing the right thing,
right. Like playing it safe. But also keep in mind though that like you've proven that you know how to recover. You know what I mean? Like, and I think a lot of times we feel like we need to be like play it safe all the time. But again, speaking to fresh starts, like you've shown that you know how to start over. Like, see, like you've lived in different places. You've had different relationships. You've started different businesses. Like, you know how to start over. If I were to plop you down in the middle of, oh my gosh, let's like Miami and say, okay, Kenzie, like find a place, find a network, get a community going. Like this is where you're going to be for the next 6 months. I would come back in 6 months and you'd be thriving. I have no question about that, and that's the case for a lot of us. Definitely. We're all way more resourceful and adaptable and flexible just by our biological nature of being humans. You know what I mean? Like that is just how we're hardwired, on top of the fact that we're smart, we're capable, and we have the internet. You know what I mean?
Very true.
So it's like this whole fear, I think, of like getting out there and starting over is just, or even having controlled chaos. Like, just kind of keeping it real. We talked about this, I think, a little last time, but, we both came from backgrounds where we had like family weirdness. You know what I mean? That's the best way I could say it, right?
Put it lightly.
Put it lightly, family weirdness. And I think when you have involuntary chaos in your life that is so out of your control because you're not the adult in the room to be able to say like, cut the shit, this is crazy. Like it's easy for us to say like, okay, we got it good. Let's not rock the boat. Let's play it safe. Let's like, maybe a tiny bit of chaos. Oh no, that burned a little. Let me come back. Like we don't want to take those leaps, but it's in the leaps that we really actually learn. And again, you survived the initial chaos, which means you certainly can survive controlled chaos that you decide on. You know what I mean?
I am a great risk taker. I think in business, in work, and like starting a new life in every area besides, and realizing this now in the past couple of months, actually a guy that I'm close with said this to me. And I was like, you're actually right. But I just am very guarded in my personal life, more like my romantic life. Too guarded though. Like I need to live a little. I need to like have a little bit of chaos. It's okay. But because I grew up with so much chaos and also like my early 20s were so chaotic and in a way I didn't like it, I have gotten too controlling of that. So I'm like, it's okay if I get hurt. It's okay if I am sad about something. It's okay. But I always joke. I'm like, I go to bed with peace on my pillow every night, which is great. But like at a certain point, I need to like rock the boat a little bit because I'm not going to grow ever. Because I'm literally in bed at 8 p.m. with my Kindle every single night because I don't want to add drama to my life.
Right, right. Which and the thing about it though is like with drama comes like equal or greater joy, So like I don't think we talked about this last time, but I will talk about it for sure right now. Like I just came out of a relationship that was chaotic, and not chaotic simply within the relationship itself. Our life was chaotic, like having 3 rando kids that we got, like having a TV show during the pandemic. Like, I mean, it was a very full life. And I came out of that. And I mean, I understand what you're saying. I literally was like, I want to talk to no one. I want to do nothing. Like what can any man even bring to my life that I haven't already done, dealt with, survived? Like, I just wasn't interested. But what I learned was that like, there's something to be said for like the trust and the growth that comes from letting someone love you, and that has been transformative. It's this so just as an example, like I'm getting a small procedure done on Friday. That's tomorrow, Friday morning. And so like I can't eat after 8 p.m., or there's like an hour
Yeah.
time or whatever. And on the way out, just like minutes ago when I was coming over here to like chat with you, my fiance, like he's in the bathroom, and all of a sudden I hear him yell, he's like, baby. And I'm like, what? And I'm thinking like, did I leave something, whatever, And he's like, have you eaten anything? He was like, you're not supposed to eat. Like, just like remembering something random. And I'm like, yeah, no, I'm good till like 8 p.m. or whatever. He's like, well, then I need you to eat before 8 p.m. Do you need me to like make something or order? Like, just nothing that I need him to do. But that idea that you're cared for and that someone is like thinking of you and that you just have that backup, particularly like Kenzie, we live crazy lives. We do big things. We build big businesses. We serve so much. Like we deserve to have someone love us, the same way that if a friend gives us the privilege of like you, like super aunt, right? Like if we have the privilege to be able to like show up for our like nieces and nephews and best friends, we are so happy to do it.
Yeah.
We're so happy to do it. Like the idea that we're robbing someone else of that joy, for us, like being able to serve the strong friend, like my guy, like he's like, I'm so proud that I get to be with you. Like he's like, that alone is like such a privilege and an honor. And I'm looking at him like, I just farted on your leg, like, but I love you.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you enjoy that. You know what I mean? But like he literally is just so proud to be with me. And that adds to his life. And on the same token, I'm so grateful because I don't think I could do half the things I do if I didn't have someone who supported that effort, even in tiny things,
This is what I need. I feel like Kylie Jenner. I've had a lot of realizations.
Yes.
But in the past couple of weeks, like I would say I'm a very open person.
Oh yeah,
like,
you're an open book, girl. Like,
book.
oh my gosh.
I will tell you anything. I don't hold back. Like I'm a very open book, right? Yep. And a guy, again, that I'm like close to, who I've known for a long time, right, was like, he's like, I just feel like you're so private and like closed off. And I was like, wait, what? And then I started to think about it and I was like, that's actually so true. Like, I know everything about, and it's not because he's not asking me questions. I'm like, I know everything about you.
Right.
Because I ask you and you tell me. You ask me and I like give very short answers.
Sure.
Like, I've noticed now in my patterns how closed off I've become. And I'm like, I can't get there because I'm not allowing someone to get there. Like, not even this person, I just mean in general. Like, I'm just not.
It's a thing.
And I need to get better. Like, that's what I'm trying to do in my 26 years. Take more risk in my
which is good. And that is worth it. And it's like, but measured risk, I just want to let you know, like, even my therapist told me as I was getting into the world, she was like, look, like, remember, people do need to earn the right for you to share, more. So it's like, it's not like, how like you'll meet those people and they're all like, you've known them for 5 minutes, all of a sudden they're like, oh my God, you're my best friend. You're just kind of like, okay, this is uncomfortable, like in my relationship, one of the things that happened was I would give him a little bit more trust. So like, again, we were together for 6 months before he even like talked to my children on the phone, because they're my most treasured thing. There was no way I was going to even let you remotely around them, and then even after he was around them, there was a little while before I was like, okay, you can pick her up from school. You know what I mean? Like, and these were like little measured things, like, I mean, I remember, he doesn't even know this, but like in the back of my head, the first time he drove while we were in the car, I was like paying attention to like, I just wanted to see, does he match my energy for care around this small being that is so valuable to me, But when I tell you, and I hope this like really like speaks to you and affirms, and I also hope that like anyone listening, when you're with the right person, which I know it's hard to find, yada, 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 but you have to like take the little vulnerable steps. They don't let you down. And it doesn't mean they don't make mistakes. Yes, he still makes mistakes. He's imperfect, so am I, right? But when I tell you, he has never let me down. He is a person who, above all else, does what he says he will do. And doing what you say you will do is a thing that we apply in my business. It's a thing that I apply in my relationships the best that I can, And it's such a simple measurement system that isn't complex, right? Like, how we're like, well, does he like take you out? Does he pay the bills? Does he do this? No, like, does he do what he say he will do? If he says he's going to show up, does he show up? If he says he's going to pick this up for me, does he pick it up? If he says he's not going to do something, does he do that too? So like one of the things I always, kick myself about was in my previous relationships, I was with someone who told me I'm not a thoughtful person. Like, it's just not how I am. I'm not hardwired. Like, I enjoy the concept of romance, but I'm not a romantic. And I was like, okay, like, because in my head, I was like, well, maybe if he loved me enough, he'd be romantic. Or maybe if it was the right circumstance. No, he told me he wasn't like that. Girl, believe him, And I think that that's something that when you start taking those little vulnerable steps and you realize like, oh yeah, no, he shows up, like he does it. Like I can actually let this go a little bit. I can actually trust this a little bit because he shows up. It really does transform you, you know?
I do think that I do that just a little bit, maybe too extreme. If you've seen the guys that I've dated before, they have literally nothing in common.
Oh
and
my
I mean,
gosh.
like, there is no,
like,
there's no
so you don't have a
thread.
type. You have a type who has no type. I have no type either. I get it.
The only thing is they are incredibly persistent because they have to be, because in order for me to finally open up and trust you and whatever, and I'm a lot more extreme now than I used to be, but I have kind of always been this way. It takes a long time for me to get to the point of being like, oh yeah, I actually like do like you. And I always joke to my friends because they're like, we know you like them like 6 months before you say it. Right. But I'm like also like kind of lying to myself, if I'm being honest, because I'm so waiting to be like, okay, this is safe, is really what I'm doing. But I'm like, I have to like wrap my head around and I have to like see.
Like, is this even a relationship?
Yeah.
And then also the like weighing it against where you are. So it's like, I'm actually really good. Like, do I like this person more than what I'm doing right now? You know? And it's like, and the answer to that's almost always going to be no on some level. Do you know what I mean? Like, is it better and easier to be in a relationship than, you know, being by yourself? Not really, you know, because like being by yourself is kind of like a easy, selfish thing, right? I don't have to consider other people's feelings. I can come and go when I want to go. I
control everything.
I can control everything. Like there's no surprises, you know, like that. But you know, there's a lot that you're not having. And I think what happens is, at least for me, what I realize is I first had to decide who I was. And like coming out of divorce, I was saying to myself, well, who am I actually? What are my value systems independent of drawing it with a person in that spot? So like I got married at 22. And like getting married at 22, I had a vision of what I thought a relationship was. You know, it was like, oh, okay, well, my husband's going to look like this and he's going to have this type of job and we're going to have this type of house. We're going to live here. And then we're going to have a kid at this point. You know, like I just had like a concept of it. And divorce obviously wasn't part of that, you know? And so once I was divorced, it was like, well, okay, I get to build a life. And this is very much where you are now, which is like kind of a blessing, you know, at 26, you get to build a life and you're like, okay, well, what do I want to keep and what don't I want to keep? And I said to myself, okay, well, I do like family. Like, you know, I literally questioned everything. Like, that's something I kind of knew, but I was like, I'm still gonna, like, I'm a family girl. Like, I like having a full Thanksgiving table and I love having the sound of like, you know, the kids playing and like people running around and like, I'm very much that person. So I was like, okay, I do want family. So what does that mean? Because you can have family by yourself. You know, like I could have babies by myself. I could adopt a bunch of kids. Like that is very much a thing. So I considered that. And then I was like, no, I like partnership. And I was like, so what does that mean? And when I tell you, like, you know, I'm a God girl, I'm a Christian, but when I tell you, I considered everything. I was literally like, okay, you know, what does partnership look like for me? Do I want to live in a commune of other single women? Like, I literally was like, do I just want to get a house with my girlfriends who are all single and divorced and we just raise our kids collectively? Like, because partnership is good for me. That much I knew. And then once I started really kind of drilling it down, I was like, no, I need to get back out there because what I seek is a long-term partner and companionship in a, like, monogamy is important to me. And that, you know, like, this is, I do like that, you know, and that is what I know about myself. So then it just became, how do I find a person who I think fits into that definition, you know, but also brings a set of skills to allow me to bring the best of myself. Does that make sense? Kind of, you know? So I feel like you've come into that season where you know what you want, but like, is partnership like good for you? Like, is that do you think you're better in partnership?
Yes.
Yeah, so if you can say that categorically, then it's kind of like,
I think with the right person. I'm thinking
it's always with the right person. It's always with the right person. But like, if you know that, then it instantly says like, okay, if I know that I'm better in partnership, then there isn't a question of, oh, well, you know, it's 8:00 and I'm fine with my Kindle in bed. No, it's like, I need to seek this thing that I know will lead to the best fulfillment of self. Because like, just like how, you know, we chase our best careers and our best bodies and our best health and all that, we absolutely need to chase our best like fulfillment of self. And for me, partnership is I go too hard. Like if I don't have a partner, if I don't have someone to like kind of ground me, I will spin off into like, it's weird because like our world celebrates it on like, particularly like men, you know, it's super celebrated where it's like, oh, he's so driven and he has like all these things and he wears the same outfit every day and like eats the same meal and he's like this robot, you know, like that. And it's like, I could be that, you know what I mean? I could easily be that. And I also know it's not good for me. Like I'll do that to death, you know what I mean? So it's like, having a partner keeps me grounded. You know what I mean? It gives, I love to cook a meal at home. And, it's like, it gives me an option to like going out all the time. You know what I mean? So I know partnership's good for me. So it became very clear. I was like, oh, I need to get my ass on Bumble. Like, I need to figure out what that looks like. Have you done any dating?
Kind of, not really. Like, honestly, I'll say no.
What does that even mean? What type of answer is that?
Because I haven't actually, like, it's not that there are not options. It's not that there are not people that I have talked to. I'm not saying yes.
Listen, Kenzie.
Does that make sense?
Of course you can date, right?
No,
like,
I mean, like, there are people I've talked to.
Have you gone out, sat down, like had like a meal with the intention of, if this goes well, there would be a second date and one would consider a relationship as an outcome?
No, this is what I'm saying. I don't let myself get to that point. That's so I'm like, there are things that I've like had, but I'm not like, and I've changed my mind recently. Right. Like things are, we'll see. And it's more so now, my 26th year, when I'm like, I need to like, are you doing this thing?
And I say this like honestly, I tell my clients this. I tell because it applies in all ways. I always say to people, you have to consider your offers and not your opportunities. So like, it's like when you're applying to a job, right? People will literally look at job listings and job postings and be like, oh, I don't think I can get this one. I don't think I can get this one. I don't think I can do this. And they won't even apply. And it's like, nope, apply to all of them. Go to your interviews, try your best, and then eliminate things when you have an offer sitting in front of you, right? So it's like when I started dating, I was like, look, like I'm coming with my own, not like baggage, but like I have a life. I've lived a life. So I'm not really seeking, like you've lived a lot of life too. Like we're not seeking fulfillment necessary in our partner. We're seeking enhancement, right?
Yeah.
So if that's the case, I can go on dates and be pretty confident because I'm coming back home at 8 p.m. to my Kindle and I'm happy. So let me go out and make a friend, So like when I started dating, I'm not kidding, probably like 70% of the people I went on my first dates with, I'm still friends with because we were friends. And I was like, oh, based on paper, this is enough for me to want to hang out with you. And as long as you're not like super weird or whatever, why wouldn't I like one of them, I like watch his dog when he went to Hawaii. Another one is like dating a new girl and I give him dating advice, like literally like, why wouldn't I just meet people? Kenzie, you meet people all the time. You're so freaking friendly. You know what I mean? Like just going out to meet people. And then if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, in that context. But now you just have a friend in the roster. You know what I mean?
I have a question for you about me specifically.
Yeah.
So I feel like I just have such I feel like this is shifting, but I feel like I was like, well, I kind of know now what I want, even though I feel like it's impossible and it's always going to change. But for whatever reason, I also recently have had this feeling of like, I think that I'm actually, what I think I want is actually maybe not good for me because I want someone who has the same like, I love health and wellness. I love all these things. And I want them to be disciplined and I want them to be this and I want them to be that. And I actually think that if I'm with someone who's like that, then we'll go crazy.
It'll over-enhance you.
It.
Yeah.
I kind of want someone who's almost like kind of opposite.
Balancing.
And balances. But do you think that would be bad for me?
Well, have you dated that type before? Like the hyper version of you? You know what I mean?
Yeah, and yes.
And it wasn't good.
No, but that wasn't really why it wasn't good.
Okay, sure. So I think like it's weird. So I can tell you from my own experience, like my ex was my categoric opposite. Like as energetic and extroverted as I am, he was that introverted. Like as like get out there, let me look good, let me be on my like business driven, ambitious. He was the opposite of that. And when I first started dating, I looked for something similar because, and this is, I've never even said this before. This is like so telling my business, but because in my brain, I thought that person was good for me because it created room for me to be myself. There was no competitor in my relationship. So I was like, oh, okay, this is good because I will always be the person who is primary, like my career will always be the focus because this person like does not care about anything, like that sort of thing. And what is interesting was that I dated like that and it wasn't working. And it wasn't working because the only reason I felt like I didn't have room in my previous relationship had nothing to do with that person's personality.
Yeah.
It had to do with a million other things like you're saying, like it wasn't working for other reasons, So what I found was it was finding someone who is similar to me with other moderation skills. So like my current guy, he is also an extrovert. First extrovert I've ever dated. And I was like, oh, it's going to be like hype all the time. It's not. It's that we know when to take a back seat. So like when I go into, he's in entertainment too, he's a producer. So when I go into his like studio environment or if he's playing a show or something, I know like I'm there on girlfriend duty. And I remember the first time I did it, I was like, it's kind of weird to be in a room with someone and they're the one on stage, because I'm the person who's always like in the stadium on stage, like doing like 50,000 person crowds. Like, this is weird, but it was so nice.
Yeah, I actually want this. I want someone whose career is like big and I don't want it to be all about my career.
Yep.
I'm like so over it. I really want it to be, I want someone to have something bigger than me, honestly.
It's so nice to have a room to be the girlfriend in.
Yeah.
Like, and being able to sit back and just like cheer him on, or like even people like, what'll happen is people come up and be like, oh, so this is your girlfriend? He's like, yeah, you know, and I'm like, oh, I'm just here. They're like, what do you do? Because LA, right? What do you do?
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, you know, I just like write books, I have a podcast, whatever, you know, which in LA sounds like nothing. You know what I mean?
They're like, okay.
Okay, whatever. Everybody has a podcast. And like, he'll like hype me up. So that's the balance, right? He knows that in his space, I will show him the respect of not trying to take an ounce of stardom in that space. And then he will like put all the like, you know, he'll gas me up. He'll be like, oh no, she's got this book coming out and it's going to be a New York Times bestseller and she has a top podcast and she's a, you know, like he will just like give me the floor, even though I'm giving him the floor. And like, there is I guess the word is humility. You're looking for someone who's still driven and ambitious and all that, but still knows how to be humble, you know, and still knows how to like not have ego. And like, that is just a personality trait. It's not someone who is like the opposite of you. You know what I mean? Because you have humility. You have, you know, low ego. You are willing to like ask questions. You want to learn. And the hard part is, I think that and I don't know if it's just like social media. I don't know what like made people like this now, you know, but like people don't want to be like that. They feel like being a know-it-all is what's celebrated.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, no, that's not how you're actually successful. So my guy's like, he's great. He's driven. He has his own thing going on. He works. He's super successful. Like, he takes care of himself. He's fit, but he's like strong in ways that I'm not. But we are very similar in our views and approaches to life and our energy level and our ambition, but we know when to take a back seat. And like, and we are always humble. Like, I will let him help me and show me do whatever, no matter, even if I'm an expert at it, I still respect him enough to listen to his opinion.
See, this is what I need. Hopefully next year.
But you're not going to find if you don't date.
No, I will. I'm open to it.
Yes. Like, and I mean, like, and when I say dating, I mean, literally, like,
I know, but I don't want to like go on like 15 dates a week. Like, that sounds.
But who even says you have to do
that?
Like,
even 2. Like, you know, like,
I don't want to date. I don't want to date. Well, I think that that's also part of it. Is I think we put a lot of pressure on dating. Like, I talk about it like it's one of those things that I've learned throughout life around fresh starts, because this is a fresh start for you. Because the person who's going on dates now has never dated like this before. So like the person who was dating all the other times that you were in previous relationships is so different.
I've also never had to date because it's always just kind of fallen into
you
my
fall
lap.
into it.
Yeah.
But that is also kind of dating, right? It's like you're getting out, you're meeting people, and then it falls into something, you know? So it's like, but it's a different person now. So like, I want you to know that like for me, when I got out there after divorce, you know, I had all these things in my head where I was like, I don't want to do it, blah, blah, blah. I got kids, yada, yada. But like, I got out there and I literally was like, oh, today's date was great. Like, I found a new restaurant I like. There's always something good that comes of it. And I stopped putting parameters around what a date can be. You have time to meet someone for coffee. If you have something you already want to do, let that person just join you in that activity. I literally would go to people, and dating was so good for me. I'm not even gonna lie. Dating was awesome for me. Like, people talk about how it was like dating so hard, especially in LA. I had a great time. I would literally like, and most of them were kind of like surprised because I would say like, well, I don't have time to do much today because I'm really busy, but I'm getting a manicure at 4. Do you want to come? And they'd be like, are you serious? And I'm like, yeah. I'm like, yeah. I was like, we'll get pedicures because we're just sitting there. We can talk. We can chat. We get to walk out feeling good. You know, and I was like, if it goes great, there's like a place next door. And if not, like, all right. You know what I mean? We weren't held hostage or more than whatever. And I got my thing done. Yeah. So I think that like getting like out of, if there's like a sandwich you want to try and you know that there's going to be a line outside there, do you want to come stand with me in line outside of this good place? Like, where we're going to get sandwiches. And if it's great. And if not, it's over. You know, like we eat our sandwich together or we take it and go home. The date can be standing in line. You know, like I just think that we put so many parameters around like, well, he needs to take me out or he, you know, has to do this or has to be that. Like, don't do that. Like, you're just meeting someone to find out if there's even like a thing, curiosity.
Yeah, that makes it less overwhelming.
Way less so. And like I think you have time to like stand in line with someone. I think you have time to grab a cup of coffee and go for a walk. You know, like you can do that. You know?
I know. I'm switching my attitude.
Yeah. The thing about it is like literally ever since I fell in love, I'm like, everybody has to fall in love.
Yeah.
Everybody has to fall in love. And it's worth it.
That's going to be me.
You know?
I'll be like, guys.
You'll be the worst.
Yeah,
I mean, you will be the worst.
The worst
the
about
worst
it.
about it. And everyone's going to know before you do. Because what's going to happen is anytime someone brings it up, they're going to hear it in your voice. It's going to be like, oh my God, on YouTube, you're going to be glowing. You'll be all giddy. Everyone's going to know. Everyone's going to be like, Kenzie's in love.
Yeah, that's true.
It's going to be a thing.
My 26th year, I fall in love.
Yeah.
That's what's going to happen.
And the thing is, and even if your 27th year you fall out of love,
that's fine.
You're still better for it.
Yeah.
You're still better for it. I'm telling you, the type of love that I'm in right now, I'm like, I don't care if I'm married to this guy for 5 minutes. I'm so much better because of it. You know, like it has transformed the way I look at people, how I treat people. Like it's been good for me. And even if there's an extreme heartbreak on the other side of it, my God, was it worth it? Like for what I've learned. And like,
beautiful.
It's so cheesy. I know
but
it's so
it
cheesy,
really is
but
beautiful.
it's true. You know, it's really true. It's kind of like, so in talking about my book, there's different stories, right? There's like going to college and finding out how to take care of my dad. And there's, you know, having these kids and then realizing like, what does it look like to continue to do all the stuff I want to do with 3 kids? Because right now, I mean, like my older girls are 21 and 24 because like younger mom, because I adopted, whatever. Yeah. But like their perspective is like, how does anyone do anything with kids now? They're so expensive. Life is so crazy. I can't even think about children. And it's like, my life is a testament to the fact that like, no, like whatever lumps you take, you can actually get it done. And I think that it's interesting because this whole book doesn't talk about love in that context. I talk about the love of my kids. I talk about the love of my career. I talk about wanting and desiring more love in my marriage, and self-love, you know, and self-worth. But I never really talk about like that pure romantic love, which probably is book 2, you know, because I'll know more about it then. But what I can tell you is all the versions of love that I talk about here are the things that you've already gotten. Like career and like you have love, like you have children in your life that you love more than life, you know, like it's like you have all that. And I tell you, like, as somebody on the other side, there's something about that real pure, like I get it. Like when I tell you, it sounds so cheesy, but like I understand love songs now. Like I used to listen to them and think that, oh my God, they're just like hyping it up. It's just lyrics. But I'm like, no, I get it. Like I understand movie plots better. So when people talk about like, I ran back for that person I love, I used to be like, that's stupid. Why would you do that? That's illogical. Now I'm like, I get it because I would take the risk to run back for the person I love because I don't want to live without them. So it's like, if the other option is just like, oh, you get to survive, like for what though? You know what I mean? Like it's just a different perspective, you know? And that has changed me because it's a different type of drive that I apply to. I don't even worry about failure as much anymore because I have everything. Mm-hmm. Like I could die tomorrow, God forbid, you know, I'm not trying to rush, you know, but you know, if I died tomorrow, I did everything. You know, I've made the money. I've had the career. I've had the fame. I've written a book as a legacy to my kids. This has everything they need in it. And I fell in love. Like who could say they've lived their whole life before 40? Like, and that just makes me so excited about the next, you know, 60 years, you know, if I get them, you know? And I think that that's the thing that it's like, gosh, if you could have that now, what would that do for you? You know?
Mm-hmm. This is inspiring me.
Yeah.
A year from now, things will be different.
I already know it. Well, I already know it. I said that last time. You know, I was like, I can feel that you're on the cusp of it. You know what I mean? It's just sort of working your way up to being open to not looking like what you think. You know, like like how we were saying in the beginning in your 20s. It's just that being open to the fact that like, look, like just like the jobs won't look like what you think, just like where you live won't look like what you think, just like your body won't look like what you think. I mean, I've lost 100 pounds. I talked about it with like Lauren on Skinny Confidential. Like literally, if I told myself I would have this body after being in my other body for the majority of my life, like I've only had this body for 6 years. You know, the majority of my life, I didn't look like this. And I didn't, for half of that, I didn't think it was possible, you know? And so it's one of those things where you realize, especially because you're like super fit and you like to work out, you know, you're 90 days away from a totally different life. Could you imagine if you met your person today, what your life would be like in 90 days?
Yeah. It
would be so different in every way. You know, in every way. And it's just one of those things where it's like, I just encourage people to engage with others. Make that, you probably haven't even met your best friend yet. You know, like you think you have, you know, and you hope you maintain that friendship, but like you literally could meet someone in 5 years and be friends with them for 40 years.
I know, that's crazy.
You know, like it's just, there's so much left. And I think that we lose sight of that in our 20s because we feel like, you know, we have that awareness. We've done a lot. We've seen a lot. We are like more it's not like the kid sort of like, oh my God, take me back to when it was just like, I didn't care about anything. Give me a Capri Sun. You know, it's like not like that anymore, you know? But there's still so much like I'm realizing as I'm coming up on that magical age where everyone's like, oh, you stop like caring. You know, you're kind of like, it's whatever. 40 is supposed to be that age. Like it happens a little at 30, but like at 40, you really start being like, oh, I can do whatever. Like the other, this is so silly, but like the other day I told my guy, I was like, I think I'm going to start wearing skinny jeans again. And he was like, what? And I was like, yeah. I was like, you know, skinny jeans are out. And like, it's not a thing people wear. And it's very like, you know, high rise mom jeans, like maybe some low rise, you know, whatever. But no one's wearing skinny jeans anymore. I was like, but I like them. And I want to wear them. So I'm gonna. And I look good in them. So that's what I'm going to do. I was like, in fall, I'm going to wear skinny jeans because they go with my boots better.
Yep.
And he was just like, what? And I was like, yeah. I was like, because I feel like it. And it's just like, and I'm telling you, it's just like you start having this mindset around, I'm going to do what I want to do and I don't care. And that mindset is actually what transforms society. You got to date. I'm just saying, get out there. That's the thing. You've done it all. That's the thing. Get out there.
Yes, I will. I will. Okay, so thank you so much for coming on. I love this episode. Where can they find you and pre-order the book?
Oh my gosh. I love coming on and chatting with you. You can get the book everywhere books are sold. Amazon, Barnes & Noble. It's available for pre-order. It comes out October 10th. And you can find me on the Nicole Walters podcast, also on Dear Media. And you can find me anywhere else on the internet at Nicole Walters.
Amazing. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed. If you did, let me know by giving it a nice thumbs up and subscribe for more.